Lois and Bob, thank you for being here and for chatting with me. I know you went from a specialty food distributor to a direct to consumer, as well as many other different aspects of your company. And I know you like to use the term swivel instead of pivot because you plan to go back to your original business model. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've done and what you're doing?
So previously, for the last 30 years, we were specialty food service distributors from Philadelphia to Richmond out to Virginia Beach. And when the economy closed and restaurants were shuttered, at least for a temporary period of time, we decided that it made sense to deploy our assets into a direct-to-consumer grocery business. So we have shopsoftstuff.com, and then we went specialty in that as well and created feedingyouKosher.com.
And now you also used your trucks to save rescue food and distribute that. Can you tell us a little bit about that as well?
Well, so when we figured out that we needed to find a different path than what we were on, we charged our leadership team to come up with alternate uses for our assets. We had trucks, frozen trucks and freezers, and we went through all kinds of ideas of how to employ those. We ended up deciding that we were going to develop a online grocery presence direct to consumer. But in the meantime, there was an opportunity to help the community out by offering our truck and a driver to transport food that was specifically made for the communities that were in need, that weren't getting fed. And through all the combination of our grocery sourcing and this effort to help the community, we figured out that produce houses throw away tons of food every week because they can't be short food. And when it comes close to being out of code, they have to get rid of it because their customers don't want it that close to code. So we end up picking up trailer loads of produce and finding homes for it, either people who are making food for the needy or the needy themselves in the form of produce.
It's really amazing. And how do you find the different locations to pick up the food?
So it becomes almost viral when people know that you're in that end of it. Then here's the thing. They throw it away, and if they can find somebody to pick it up, that means it's not going in their dumpster, so they don't have to pay to have it removed. I mean, that's seriously the economics of it, right? So if it becomes if their trash becomes our treasure, then they've gotten rid of it. They've written it off because it's a charitable donation for however they're booking that, and we pick it up and bring it back to our warehouse, divvy it up amongst several different opportunity organizations who are out there feeding the needy. And I think that it's extremely important to point out that in Howard County, Maryland, which is where we're located, as well as the majority of the food service distributors in this area, this is like the fourth wealthiest county in the country. And people think that there's no hunger here. That's a fallacy. And the amount of meals that we've helped provide, well, since the pandemic started, we've personally delivered over 115,000 meals off of our vehicles. But that doesn't even take into consideration the amount of milk that we are donating or the amount of rescued foods that we're taking. You take into consideration, if we get a pallet that has 40 cases of grapefruits and there's 36 grapefruits in there and there's nothing wrong with them, and we take them here to Howard County along with other foods, think about how many people you're making an impact on.
That's amazing. And now how did you make the change to accommodate all these different new avenues and new efforts?
Well, the unfortunate part is that we did something that we never thought we'd encounter, which is we furloughed people. So we had 47 employees, and a little over half of them were furloughed in one fell swoop. And we were trying to do anything we could to re-employ them. So having the opportunities to help the community and double up as a resource for the grocery side of the business, we had plenty of assets. We still have plenty of assets. We went from 13 trucks every day to 5 trucks. Now we're up to 7 again. So, I mean, the numbers of it is that immediately our wholesale business went to just under 20% of the level it was before. And we're probably up to about 35% now. But the addition of the grocery business helped. So we went from 13 trucks down to 5, back up to 7 now. But we in an effort to re-employ our staff, we were capable of committing a truck to helping the community, as well as resources to launch the direct-to-consumer business that we needed. So our problem wasn't necessarily not having the assets to handle that. It was finding work for the people to do.
And it's really interesting, the new opportunities that we've been able to discover for ourselves. So I think this is really key. You live your life and you run your business or your law practice or whatever it is that you're doing. And if you're fortunate enough to be successful and you stay in that lane, you know, you veer off a little bit here and there, but you really stay with what you think are your core competencies. And most people never have the opportunity to decide what they would do if their core competencies were no longer in need, if it was no longer a viable business model. So for us, we were specialty foods, breads, desserts, ice cream, hors d'oeuvres. Just think about hors d'oeuvres. When is the next time you're going to go to a party, a simcha, anything, and somebody's passing hors d'oeuvres and you're going to put your hand on that plate and take something off of it? When's the next time you're going to go to a Viennese buffet and pick up a cupcake or a chocolate top cookie or whatever it happens to be? That's not happening. Of corporate events, conventions, that whole paradigm is shifting as to what that's going to look like. So we never considered other opportunities. So we now sell meat. We now sell vegetables and produce. And that's actually how we came upon all of this opportunity to rescue food and get it out into the market. It was through the produce distributor that we're working with. So we never thought about what it would mean to sell dairy to our customers because that wasn't what we did. You know, that's not what we do.
Well, it's a commodity, and we stayed away from commodities. We were a specially value-added distributor, but we had to have it for the direct-to-consumer side. But once we had that in-house, being able to swivel and position ourselves in front of both sets of customers was logical. And the restaurant industry and the hospitality industry responded. And our core philosophy about going to market, which is being a true partner to everybody that we touch, us breaking cases for our customers, which most of the industry doesn't do, the low minimums, all of those things became more important now
That's the value add.
because the proteins and the produce, if a restaurant opens and all they need is 10 pounds of chicken and a dozen lemons, they're not getting that from most of the food distributors out there. You have to buy a case of lemons and a case which is 40 pounds of chicken. And there's uncertainty and there's
Cash flow issues
and labor saving issues that the way we go to market, it makes sense to have all of those products that we didn't have before.
Right. And so how did you figure out what products you needed to get? How did you collect them? How did that happen so quickly? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So getting into the protein business, we got a phone call from an old, do you know what a food broker is? That's a representative that works for the manufacturer, but doesn't actually, they're an intermediary. So a food broker that we've known for, 25 years called, said, I hear you're getting into direct to consumer, you're doing chicken. And then he put us together with somebody who was looking to sell off a ton of chicken. And all of a sudden we were in the chicken business. And all of a sudden that opened up the opportunity to find our way into produce and find our way into dairy, and then saying, well, we probably should have meat. So now we sell meat.
Well, the truth of the matter is there's a list on a board in front of us that just grew from when somebody said, well, what do we need if we're going to be in the grocery business? And we said, oh, we need milk and cheese, and we need produce and beef and seafood and poultry. And we wrote that all down. And then next to it, we said, well, we'll call Cloverland. And they'll have milk. And that's really as simple as it is. We just thought about who we knew. Now, I came from the restaurant industry, so I know, and we've been in this for a long time. So we just depended on who we knew in the industry and made calls.
And the guy from the milk company, he said, don't you remember meeting me? Like, I knew you when you worked for the company that you worked for before you started this company. Okay, sure.
Connections please come around again.
Oh my God, it was just crazy. So
we even decided to go into the flower business for Mother's Day.
And you want to know something? Right, because we thought, well, we'll put up flowers on the website and we'll advertise, we'll do pointed, Facebook ads and let people know that we have these 4 different options, which, by the way, I would never have known that rainbow tulips were the #1 flower to give out on Mother's Day. And you never give red roses on Mother's Day. It's always rainbow.
Really?
See, you didn't know that. But you know what? The majority of what we sold was not to direct to consumer, but was to the restaurants and the country clubs that we were doing business with, because they were putting together Mother's Day food opportunities for the entire weekend. So you had brunch, you had lunch, you had, dessert or whatever it was. And now you didn't have to have the customer go to the grocery store because florists are pretty much closed, right? So you could sell it. Then we had a bagel shop in Rockville, Izzy's Bagels. I'll give a plug for him because Lee Greenberg is doing a great job of surviving this pandemic. And, he bought hundreds of bouquets and he sold them. It would never have been in his wheelhouse before this.
Or ours. We would never have thought to be in the wholesale flower business.
Right. Now, I don't know if we'll go back into that after, I don't know what the next big holiday is to give flowers, but we would consider doing that, especially now that restaurants are going to be opening and they're going to need things for their table and just giveaways. So anyway, you figure things out. I actually had a conversation this morning when we were having a meeting, and I said, how many executive leadership classes that we've taken through, Tuck School of Business at Dartmouth or Harvard and places like that. Like, I said, there's a striking similarity to the conversation we're having now. This is the conversations we'd have at Harvard, which is sitting around a table with a bunch of smart people. It doesn't matter where those smart people are located. Just use your brain. Think, talk about it, whiteboard it. Some stuff is going to be gold and some of it's going to be garbage, but you never know until you throw it out there. And the things you think are wonderful won't work. The things you think that are terrible might work, and you just figure it out from there.
Right. Well, you guys have been so creative and have made such a tremendous change already, such a huge impact. It's really very impressive.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for everything you're doing, and thank you for making the world a brighter place.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.